Hey, everybody. Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
So, Dean, I'm sure your retail buying habits have changed a lot over the last couple of years.
Yes, a little bit.
I think we've talked about
more
this
online. Yes, absolutely. A little less in store, a little more online.
Right. So, are you still taking advantage of stuff like BOPIS, ship to home?
Sure, absolutely, yes.
Those trends that kind of picked up at the height of the pandemic. Not going away anytime soon.
Not going
right?
away, no, but
I think we can assume
doing
that.
curbside, still, even to this day,
Right,
absolutely,
right.
yeah.
Well, that's a big part of what we're talking about today, because we're going to dive in a little bit into retail and how retail's changed, how the inventory side of things is a lot different than it used to be because...
Oh, I'm returning a lot of stuff now.
There you go.
Am I a culprit here? Am I part of the issue?
I don't know if it's a culprit, but it's just the trend, and retail stores have to keep up with this trend and where things are going. Yeah. So we're going to get into that, and we're going to get into RFID in particular as being an enabler of some of these new trends.
Got it.
We have Dean Frew with us on today from SML RFID. We're going to get into some statistics that they came up with when some studies they did about retail that I think will be a little eye-opening to understand about where we are right now, what's happening.
Okay.
We'll talk about maybe what Dean sees as, is the trends that are going to continue, what's going to change, better for worse.
Nice.
We'll talk about BOPIS 2.0. This was not a concept I'd heard of.
BOPIS 2.0.
But I'm intrigued by it. I think we need to talk more about that. We'll get into RFID, obviously, as the enabler for these transitions. Talk about how retailers are changing their attitudes, the whole distribution strategy that comes in retail now. It's a little different than before.
100%. Yeah.
I think we got a lot of interesting stuff to cover. Some potential good opportunities for our VARs here.
Good. That's what it's all about. Opportunity, man.
That's right.
Yep.
All that plus our usual value to the VAR and what's TEConnecting with us. It's time to plug in and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, as I mentioned, our guest today is Dean Frew. He is the CTO and Senior Vice President of RFID Solutions for SML Group. Dean, thanks so much for joining us today. Appreciate having you on the show. I'm looking forward to this conversation, but tell us a little about yourself, your background. How did you get into this whole retail RFID space?
Thanks, John. And Dean, nice to meet you. Basically, engineer, started working for Texas Instruments for 15 years and then started doing some startups. And in one of those startups after that, I was our representative at MIT where we were establishing UHF RFID standards. And from that, I started a company, venture funded. And in 2013, I sold that company to SML and ran a division. And now I run that division and am CTO of the company. Focused around our RFID business. So it's an exciting time. Been in it for 20 years, basically. And so I've watched it from basically being a little baby crawling around to what is now a full-fledged teenager running crazy. So it's good.
Dean has been waiting a long time for RFID to be embraced and start running.
Yeah, well, that also obviously lends to his credentials here that he's
100%.
Experienced it from the early days.
Absolutely.
Sees where it's been, where it's at now, where it's going. So I think he's going to be good for us for this conversation. So let's get into this then. Let's talk about this this idea of RFID in retail, and in particular we're going to get into item level RFID. We'll explain a little more about that later too. But I want to start off with some of these studies that SML did back in 2021, which is a great point to kind of examine what's happening in retail, because we were a year plus into the pandemic. All the big shifts and changes and dynamic of retail had already kind of occurred. So it's a good point to kind of take stock of what's happening. There's a few statistics I want to call out here in particular. So this was a survey you did with 500 apparel executives in the U.S. and the U.K. It was over spring and summer of 2021. Three big stats that stood out to me. One was their biggest challenges, that 48% said out of stocks, 42% unclear inventory, and 22% said it was taking too long to find items. On the side of inventory counts in particular, I found this one fascinating. On average, staff members spend 14.6 hours per week executing inventory-related tasks.
Yeesh.
That's counting, receiving, finding, transferring, with some respondents claiming this can take as much as 36 hours per week. That's basically a full-time employee.
Yeah.
that's just doing inventory.
Running around doing
stuff,
inventory,
right?
yeah.
And then the other stat that really stood out to me was only 12% of respondents were saying that they were performing physical counts on a daily basis, which, again, I guess if it's taking this long to do it, I guess I kind of understand that.
Yeah, right.
So let's talk about that a little bit more, Dean. Help us, uncover these numbers and what they say. We're a year obviously past those surveys now. We're getting into the latter part of 2022. How would you grade the kind of the current state of retail? Is it getting better? Is it worse? Is it about the same as it was then?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we should think about is that in the late 70s, Wrigley put a barcode on a piece of gum, right? And for 50 years, we've been using the same technology to manage inventory at the SKU level. And so it's not surprising that we have issues as, much like you were talking about with Dean early on at the intro. Consumers have changed the way we want to shop. And the days are gone where an e-com order is always going to be placed out of a DC. The retailers are having to use their stores as replenishment vehicles for consumers. And so, that's not going to change. I think that the study, one of the things it highlighted was the disruption that we saw, which was, in my opinion, the biggest disruption in the history of the world to supply chains during COVID, where we had one end of the pipe shut down, the other end of the pipe shut down, one end of the pipe come back alive, and the other end of the pipe come back alive later. And that pipe of product flowing to markets was drastically disrupted. So, they're still dealing with that. They're dealing with that today with what we're seeing with inflation. And I think the bottom line is what we're seeing is as retailers are, it's essential that they have a responsive system to be able to respond to the changes either in supply or in demand or both. And some of the results that came out of that study in 2021 still hold today. And the only way to be able to solve that problem is to have a better view of what's going on. I mean, retailers didn't mention it in the study, but most retailers are only operating at around 70 or less than 70% inventory accuracy. So imagine today if you order something from a store and they are overstated by 15% in their ERP, they very well might think they have that blue shirt that you want. But when they go to pick it, they find out that they don't have it. And thus they cancel the order with you. And we all know what that does to us as consumers. So anyway, bottom line is the world is changing to an item level world. It's going to have to in retail because they're going to have that level of fidelity and real-time accuracy of inventory.
That's exactly right. I mean, when you think about it, there's so much interest that I got out of this particular survey. I mean, what a dichotomy. When 48% say the biggest challenge is out of stocks, right?
Right.
But only 12% are doing daily counts. I mean, there's the disconnect. And the market pressures on retailers to automate and to get this information is immense at this point in time. I mean, because consumers are demanding that, right? If I go online and I think that I've ordered that blue shirt, but it's not, that is the problem, right? Therein lies the problem. And so what technology do we have to get down to the item level to expedite that? And I know obviously we're going to get into that, but that's where we need to be as an industry. That's where we need to be to start helping to enable these retailers to get to there. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And if I could add just real quick, I mean, one of the things that's compounding this is think about as labor requirements have moved into the store, we've put more pressure on labor in the store. And in an inefficient world where they're running around trying to find things, we're compounding the problem. We're adding demand into the store for inventory transactions. And yet our staff is not increasing because in some places they can't find staff. So we're having to drive the labor efficiency component to this is something that is underlying some of the challenges that retailers are having today.
Yeah, 100% agree on that, right? I mean, even when you have the employees, and there's obviously a move for those employees to be more front of house, to be because you want the better customer experience, and you want to have that associate interacting with a customer, not in the back trying to pick, pack, and ship like you would in a warehouse.
Yeah, back in my retail days, like I was either the person that was out on the floor knows where everything was, or I was spending, to your point, hours in the back room unboxing, pulling stuff out, figuring where everything was. But man, this was early 2000s. Like I remember distinctly this, always that feeling of, you mentioned the inventory levels and not having exactly what you expected or thought you were supposed to have, whatever the computer said. That was one of the most frustrating things to me is when a customer would come in and ask for something, and I'd look in the computer and it would say, yeah, you have 3 of these in stock. Nowhere to be found. And it was either that they just simply weren't there and we had incorrect, levels, numbers in there, or it was in a box somewhere in the back still. It was in the wrong place in the store. It had been held aside for somebody else. A million different reasons why it could potentially have been in the wrong place. And that was just, again, we're talking, early 2000s when and I was in a bookstore. So early, the only real competition online was Amazon was still in its fledgling days.
Oh, sure, right? Yeah.
Just kind of starting to ramp up. Our biggest competition was, the nearest grocery store or Sam's or something might have books on a little bit deeper discount than us. So, I wasn't worried too much about losing customers, because they didn't really have too many other places to go. I can't imagine what it's like for a retailer now, knowing that hey, if you don't have something when someone asks for it, you potentially have lost that customer forever. There's a million other places where they can probably get this and get it right now when they want it. And if you aren't the one that can do it and you have those inaccurate numbers and you can't even accurately tell them what you do or don't have, or someone orders something from you and you have to tell them, oh, sorry, we didn't actually have this after all, when they've driven out and shown up at your store. That's the kind of stuff is just, you're just damaging your reputation now, especially again in this fast-paced, modern, give it to me right now sort of environment here.
I would agree. Yeah.
So Dean, a lot of what SML refers to in their articles is this idea of BOPIS 2.0. Can you explain that concept and how it differs from the BOPIS that we all think about?
Yeah, so BOPIS 1.0 is almost I hope I have it. I'm going to commit and hope I have it. Okay. And just because of that issue of the distortion of what their real inventory is versus what they think they have. And what's happening now with customers that we have all over the world is that they're moving to be able to confidently commit to John that blue shirt is there and he can come pick it up this afternoon. Okay. And it's a game changer for consumers because to the point it's going to be used as a competitive weapon against retailers against each other. Okay. I mean, we're very used to the Amazon Prime world where, think about their success rate of delivering to you at home, whether it be paper towels or batteries or clothing now. And so what we're seeing is this, the bar has been raised by the Amazons of the world to be the level of confidence that a consumer expects is extremely high. And the only way to do that is to the simple fact of knowing what you have. The investments that have gone into AI, which are kind of hilarious to me because they're operating on data that's 30% inaccurate. Okay. And so when we talk about let's deal with the fundamental, which is what do we really have, and now how do we help the retailer make better decisions so that they can service customers more effectively? And that's BOPIS 2.0. Think about it. I mean, the order drops, a retailer then uses the RFID capability to go item level find with a Geiger counter the item. So there's no more of this 30%, 40% cancel rates in stores when you're using item level RFID in a BOPIS 2.0 environment. And the key thing is we're not changing the order management system. The order management system stays the same. It's just the way it's executed that's different.
Enhancing that overall, or the infrastructure to a certain degree that's already in place, right? To enable that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's think about it. There's a SKU level fabric, we call it, that is their existing ERP systems, and they do their jobs really well. But what's happening is that retailers are adopting this item level system fabric that sits underneath it that makes it easier for them to do it the SKU level world, like the order management system and so on. So a lot of changes going on in stores and in warehouses.
Definitely. Well, then let's get into this RFID portion. You mentioned this already in the item level aspect here. And obviously, this is going to be a big enabler, I think, for this transition to this BOPIS 2.0, where you can confidently say, yes, we have this. There shouldn't be I mean,
no ambiguity.
I would
here.
hope that at least 99% accuracy, if not even expecting better than that, frankly, most of the time. So how does, RFID tagging down to this item level instead of looking at bulk, or a whole box worth of stuff, how does getting it down to this level, and I think you've already touched on this, how does this address retailers' concerns? How does it address customer expectations right now?
Yeah, I mean, an example, we've got one customer who they do a cycle count every night of everything in every store.
That's impressive.
Okay, in 1 hour.
Wow.
Oh,
So they close the doors to the mall. They scan tens of thousands of items in every store every night. They reset their inventory for their BOPIS orders the next day. And they drop the orders to the store. They pick the orders. They confidently tell John that the item is there, or they tell John it's shipping out this afternoon on UPS. And there's this new. It's interesting because what it's doing is it's facilitating an accurate, timely, confident transaction that then is building loyalty to the brand. Just like what we've done with Amazon. Amazon doesn't have any brand, right? I mean, its brand is fulfilling our orders. But what retailers are doing is they're using the efficiency and confidence of that process to build loyalty to the brand. Okay. And so if I'm somebody orders something from that store, I'm going to do it just because of the convenience. I needed that dress. I needed that pair of slacks. And they're doing it. And we're seeing this across the world we're installed in 5,500 stores right now and managing over 280 million items every week. And so, what we're seeing is this it's an opportunity to use the technology to build brand loyalty and brand awareness by saying, not only do they build a good product, but they know how to fulfill the order when I want it, kind of thing.
And there's a lot in there, though, Dean. Let's unpack a couple of those things. I mean, obviously, the convenience factor, when you can boil it down using RFID technology down to the item level, that's adding a level of convenience for the consumer. It's adding a level of convenience, honestly, for the employee. We talk all the time about employees that want to work at places that have modern technology, right? And so being able to walk around with a sled or whatever and do your cycle counts in an hour, that's impressive. 10,000 items, come on.
Yeah.
Whereas that would take hours.
I remember back
days.
in the day shutting down for like a Saturday evening, bringing in a third-party company to come in and count everything in the store.
That's right.
And even then, it still was never 100% accurate.
Not wildly accurate. So, Dean, talk to us a little bit. Let's go down a path here of how you enable part of that to occur, because there's some learnings here, and maybe we can dive into the tag side or whatnot, because I know that you guys are very involved in that, in helping your customers understand and actually come up with solutions around getting tags all the way down to the item level, whether it's in a box, right? Whether it's in the packaging of the box, or whether if it's a piece of clothing, it's the tag, that's sewn in or something like that. Can you talk a little bit about where you spend some time and how you try to help these retailers get there by understanding the tag element of the whole thing?
Yeah, for sure, Dean. I mean, there are three components of an item level RFID system. The first one is the tag. The second one is the reader hardware. And the third one is the enterprise software. And on the tag side, we produced just under 3 billion encoded RFID tags last year for retailers. Okay. And 98% of those are being done at source. And so the factory in Vietnam doesn't know the difference. They're ordering today a price ticket. Tomorrow, when they order RFID, they order a price ticket. It's encoded, it's printed, it shows up in a box. They unpack the box and they swift it onto a garment or sticker it onto a box. They don't even know that there's RFID in it. Okay, that's the misnomer, is that this is going to be disruptive for the factories. The factories don't know any different. Okay, and we have a complete data management system that allows the retailer to place orders and the factory to place orders with us, so that those orders are delivered in country within a few days. Okay. It's really simple. I mean, there's an upfront part. You have to build inventory months in advance of when you want it in the store, just because of the normal flow. And it's a core piece of our business. I mean, it's what SML was doing before RFID was making price tickets and care labels. We make stickers, we make hang tickets, we make hundreds of millions of sew-ins that go into garments as well, go onto boxes, go onto fragrance and cosmetics, that go onto home goods, sporting goods, etc. So we have a whole team of people that basically work with the merchandising team to see what that looks like, and it's pretty mainstay. I mean, it's pretty mainstream now. I mean, it's well understood. The sources of tags, the secret sauce is in actually the encoding process, being able to make sure that you don't duplicate serial numbers, because that would be the worst, right? If there were three blue T-shirts that were the same style, size, and color, but had the same serial number, it would only show up as one. And so having an encoding system that prevents any of that worldwide, wherever you are in the world making products. So anyway, that's the tag part. And then you have the hardware part, which of course we partner with BlueStar to purchase the majority of our hardware from. And Zebra is our premier partner in that space. And then of course the enterprise software, which is our other piece of intellectual property. Cloud-based, Microsoft Azure hosted, but that's the secret sauce on our side, is how to manage the applications on handhelds and tunnels and things like that.
Well, there it is. I mean, when you talk about partner or enabling, right? I mean, you really have to have, because, I can imagine there's a lot of resellers, a lot of old barcode, resellers out there that maybe have dipped a toe in RFID or not, where is the future? And we've had many conversations about this with, anywhere from Pete Collins from A to B to whatever, saying, the world is going to be a blend of barcode technology, RFID technology.
It's not a replacement thing anymore.
It's not a replacement. It's a handshake, or it's a the two of them walking together kind of a thing, at least for right now. So, but understanding and enabling folks through the conversation on the tag front, to me, is one of those that you have to have kind of up front. And I like, Dean, that you kind of painted a picture where it's the merchandising teams getting together, right? So you have to have somebody who can talk that talk, walk that walk, or a partner like SML that you can work with to enable that portion of it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Because how else are we going to get down to the item level?
Yeah,
you got to get a tag on that item at the end of the road.
Yeah. Man, I think my favorite thing about this is, and you referenced it earlier on, Dean, is this idea that if you're looking for a specific item, and again, in retail stores, let's be honest, stuff never is where it's supposed to be. People pick something up, decide they don't want it.
Oh, they walk over here.
Stick it somewhere else random. Right. Yeah, I'm not going to say I haven't been guilty of that from time to time, too. I try to be cognizant of it, remembering my days in retail, not to do that kind of stuff. But just the idea of being able to quickly and easily track down something, because again, a customer comes in, asks for something, you look it up, it says you've got one, you go looking for it, it's not where it's supposed to be. Either you're hunting all over the store, or you give up and you lose that customer.
Yeah.
The idea of being able to just go, oh, it's over there. I'm going to go track it exactly where it's at. I love that. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of blends into what we're going to talk about next year too, which is, again, this kind of changing attitude in retailers about what they actually are. You're not just a place for people to come buy stuff. That a lot of retailers, and we talked about this with Tony Boncourt, I think, from Honeywell a couple weeks ago, this idea that distribution and manufacturing is all starting to get kind of built into one big puzzle piece with the actual retail stores themselves. A lot of retail stores are kind of becoming distribution centers of sorts. If you have enough inventory in stock, maybe you're shipping it out, you're moving it around to other stores. It's not just we have what we have, they have what they have, and that's it. Then, never the two shall meet. You can do a transfer, but it's going to take a week and a half or something like that for that to happen. It's a little more, intuitive now. So, Dean, help us kind of break that down and talk about, the idea that the attitudes towards distribution, manufacturing, as far as whether it's a retail, a new retail venture that's starting up, or somebody that's kind of trying to open up new stores, expand their business. How are they thinking about this as kind of one big solution now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the companies that are in the forefront of change, and I think that's the biggest challenge in retail, is changing. I mean, they've been doing it this way for 15, 20 years. And so the ones that are in the forefront are recognizing that they truly have a single inventory pool. Some of it's in a DC, some of it's in, 80% of their inventory typically is in stores, if not more, for larger retailers. And so they don't think of it anymore as warehouse and store. They think of it as inventory. I have an inventory pool. I want to know what I have in each location. And if I need to place an order, if I need to move things, I need to be very accurate in what I have so that I can decide to trigger a operational process to move, to sell, to pick, etc. And it's a fundamental change. The biggest, we get the question a lot. Well, listen, RFID's been around for a long time. What's the big deal? Well, first off, I mean, when we first started, we could barely read from a meter away. Okay, our tag, the handhelds read, 20 tags per second. We're reading 200 tags per second now, et cetera. So the technology had to grow up. The manufacturing technology had to grow up, and now we're at a place where that's the case. And so, what's happened now is that, the change management piece of moving from SKU level to item level enterprise is a big deal. Not a big deal to implement, but a big deal to get your head wrapped around. And so, most customers, most retailers we're dealing with have never done an RFID project before. Okay, so think about it. If it's a point of sale system or it's a warehouse management system, you've got half a dozen people that have gone through 3 cycles or 4 cycles of upgrades. But when it comes to item level RFID, it's not. And so, the customers that are out there in the front are the ones who are starting with a clean sheet of paper and saying the world is different. We need to acknowledge that, right? We need to go through a 12-step program and acknowledge that we have a problem and change it, okay? And so what we're seeing is more and more retailers are looking at financial results of their competitors. It's turning into a CFO C-level discussion rather than a director of IT with a science fair project. Okay. And I think that's a good sign, right? I mean, but to us, the limitation is no longer technology. The limitation is the change management functionality or the change management culture in these retailers to think differently.
Always so hard to buck, right? I mean, we see it endlessly in other areas like point of sale systems that are 15 years old. I was just talking to one of the chefs that we use on Bon Appetit, and the technology, and it's really old, but it works, right? And so there's not a lot of pressure to change your point of sale system like there is the pressure to change a retail environment to face BOPIS and we haven't even gotten into like the return nightmare that what was it? 28% of BOPIS orders have a cancellation rate.
Yeah.
So now you got this reverse logistics nightmare that we've talked about in the past. That I mean, it's creating a world. And Dean, I think it's really well put that you said. If they're new retailers, obviously they got an in. It's a fresh start. It's a clean slate. When we think about the cannabis industry, I can't think of a better example than the cannabis industry.
A lot of new
dispensaries, a lot of new grow facilities. A lot of these folks are using RFID right out of the gate because it makes sense. Well, first off, they got to tag it, they got to know it through the whole growth process, and so it makes a lot of sense. But there's a unique environment where it definitely holds on to. So, but trying to transition those folks that have been in the grind, if you will, of the technology that they have. I don't know. I can see that would be a little bit hard to have that conversation, but man, the pressures are there, right? So really well said, Dean. Now that's getting all the way up to the C level because these are now business decisions that are making meaningful operations.
I mean, we call it a burning platform.
Yeah,
there's a burning platform that caused people to jump now, and where even before COVID there was, but not like now.
Yeah.
It's dramatically changed. And you think about it, this gets down to a personal level. These people, are they willing to take a risk with their career to do something new?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, we tend to forget that in the technology geek world, right? But when it comes down to it, people are making people decisions.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so, and we tend to think, well, of course, it's obvious to us. I mean, there's a return on investment and there's this, but somebody who is 3 or 4 years away from retirement or whatever, there's a risk component that we're trying to help clients with by just having more and more success stories.
Dean, can I get a quick take from you, Dean, on I can always imagine this technology being heavily discussed at what I would call a tier 1 retailer level. Are you starting to see it come down to the tier 3, tier 2, tier 3, almost even down to the SMB? Or where is your play right now? I mean, again, my perception is, this is at the tier 1 level using item level RFID, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's down into a smaller size retail establishment. Your take?
Yeah, I mean, we've got customers that have one store.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay.
And we have customers with 5,000 stores.
All right.
There's the answer.
Okay. And so I go back to the cultural thing. It's about where is the culture to say we've got to do something different. And what we're finding is there's no pattern. I mean, we break the market into 700 stores and above, 250 to 700, and less than 250. And we're seeing basically customers coming in across that whole spectrum. Now, their model that they want might be a little different, meaning they might want SaaS more than they want CapEx or something like that. But the technology is the same, the business case is the same, and we as a technology provider have got to deliver an enterprise software solution that scales from one store to 5,000 stores. Okay? Because at this stage of adoption, I'm a huge fan of Jeffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm, and at this stage of adoption, every single success is beneficial to a technology company, regardless of the revenue potential.
Well said. I was hopeful that you would say that we would start seeing this. Although I was at a cigar shop the other day, and man, they are not at this level because there's two guys behind the counter, and they had a new shipment in, and they're looking at a box, and they're like, "Oh, I think it has 16 cigars in that one." They're like, "I don't know." They open it up, and there's only 12.
Oh wow!
And so, and then the guy puts it back up, and he says, "Don't worry about it."
Oh.
I'm like, whoa! What do you mean, don't worry about it? My spidey sense went up around inventory and warehouse management. Anyway. But there's a lot of work to be done out there. But that's awesome that you got it down to the store level because those folks are the ones that need to compete as well.
Oh yeah,
and they have to be able to compete in this BOPIS type of world, this online world, this clarity on inventory level. They have to be there.
Well, it goes back again to what we were talking about earlier. This idea that everybody knows that you can go to the big dog tier 1 stores or online and you're likely going to find what you want. But a lot of people prefer to shop locally, or maybe it's just more convenient or easier.
For sure.
So again, if they want to feel like that local shopping is just as good, if not better, of an experience, maybe the experiential part is going to be better. They know that. But from I just want to get what I want to get perspective, if they're walking into the small mom and pop shop and they can't manage their inventory correctly and are always have inaccurate numbers, don't have what they're supposed to have too much of what they need, if that stuff is happening. And again, people are going to remember like, all right, fine. This store is just worthless to me. I know I can go to Walmart and get what I want to get there. I can always find it. I don't like going there, but I'll go there because they always have what I need in this other place.
It's more convenient.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah. So to me, in my mind, I would think it would behoove those much smaller businesses to think about, man, if this is a way that I can guarantee that I get to hold on to those customers
and stay competitive.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to lean into that and do that? And that's hopefully a conversation.
One thing, real quick. One final thing on that is that we're seeing a movement for brands that have got a wholesale channel. Okay, the smaller retail opportunities are coming from brands that are needing to tag for larger retail wholesale customers. So somebody who's tagging for Walmart, somebody who's tagging for Nordstrom, somebody who's tagging for Macy's has their own stores. And so they've solved the biggest problem for the small, medium business, and that is how do you tag things? Because they don't own their own brand. And so what's happening is all these brands that are tagging up for their wholesale channel are now saying we're going to use this in our own stores.
Gotcha. Yeah. Makes sense.
Right. Yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
All right, well, I want to help our VARs know maybe where they should be focusing their efforts to dig in and position some item level RFID. But before we do that, I want to, as always, thank the TEConnect sponsors for our TEConnect program and for the podcast in particular. We could not do this show without you. We appreciate your support for us every week and every year. Hey, if you like this show and you want to tell us that you like the show, we want to know.
Yeah. Don't be shy.
We assume that enough people are still downloading and watching that it must mean you enjoy it, unless you just, I don't know, maybe it's a Schadenfreude thing or you just want to watch us stumble over ourselves and you enjoy that. Could be, I don't know. But either way, if you have a review for us, let us know. If you're on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, leave us a review on Apple in particular. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. We want to hear from you, know what you think of the show, what you like. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button for this episode. Drop us a comment. Subscribe to our channel.
Always.
You always want to be subscribed to our BlueStar Inc. YouTube channel. We're doing lots of cool stuff there. New video all the time. We love doing videos. So
absolutely,
you're going to find interesting stuff there. And hey, if you have a suggestion for a topic for the show, we want to hear from you.
All right.
Who do you want to hear from? We try to bring in brilliant people like Dean on a regular basis to talk with us about topics, but is there someone we've missed? Is there someone you want us to have a conversation with? Is there a particular topic we have not dove into yet that you want to learn more about? Do you want us to go back to something we talked about back in 2020?
Right. We got to revisit
and do
it.
a refresh and revisit whatever. Whatever you want to hear about, we want to know that from you. So if you go to the link in the show notes, there's always a link there to give us submissions for topics on the podcast. And just for submitting one, whether we use it or not, we will send you a TEConnect podcast t-shirt. It's a nice, comfortable t-shirt. It's one you're going to want to wear around.
It's soft. It's comfortable.
It is. It's soft. It's the kind you want to throw on at night, after a long day.
That's right.
And just relax
Yes.
while listening to your favorite podcast. Yeah, exactly. So if you've got some ideas for the show, please submit those to us. We'd love to hear from you. We want this to be a show that you get something out of. And as always, if you want to stay in touch with us, you can always find us on Twitter at TEConnectPod. You can also email us anytime, TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com. All right, let's wrap up here. First of all, with our value to the VAR.
Yeah.
And, again, we've had this in-depth conversation about how item level RFID and item level, for retailers, being able to hone in on specific items all the way down, to that very simple item itself, understanding the whole distribution aspect of things. There's a lot of stuff I think we've covered here. But, I think a big question maybe for our VARs might be like, all right, well, where do I start? Is item level RFID make sense for every retailer? Is it only for certain retailers? So, Dean, where do you think, what are the right types of retail? Can just anybody do this, or is there certain places where it makes more sense than others?
Yeah, clearly because of the re-tagging situation, somebody who owns their own supply chain is the low-hanging fruit. Okay, so if you look at the big success stories in the world are companies that have largely controlled their own supply chain. Inditex, which is Zara, H&M, which is our client, and others. And so, but at the smaller level, there are a lot of brands, as I mentioned, that are currently buying hardware from VARs out there. And there's an opportunity for them to partner with somebody like ourselves to basically help deliver a full solution and let the VAR get some revenue out of it. And I think that's the message I would give is, don't try to go build this yourself. Try to partner with somebody like ourselves and take a piece of the pie. We're more than willing to partner with people that can do that. And so, but there are a lot of VARs out there that are servicing that lower tier vertically integrated retailer. Focus there because that's the simplest way of getting from a proof of concept or pilot into some kind of a rollout, which is where the opportunity is for the VAR and for the enterprise company like us.
Bingo. I think Dean's being a little bit too modest here in the sense that, if you are a traditional barcode reseller or any kind of reseller, if you're in POS or whatnot, and you're looking for a partner, we always talk about partnerships. SML is a great partner because they do everything, as we already mentioned, from packaging. They can help with that on turnkey solutions around packaging needs. They can help with labels and accessories. We talked a little bit about that, but even though Dean rattled off at least 5 different versions of labels that they can help execute and design and build in. You need a partner like that. Oh, by the way, the software aspect of it, SML's got that too. So anyway, when you look at the type of partnership that you can walk in the door with some confidence and help your customers build out these solutions that they honestly really need, especially in the retail space, the great partners like that are always the win, right? That's what you want to do.
Definitely.
So
and I was thinking when I think about specific types of retailers, I know know fashion and apparel is a big one for SML that you guys, kind of go to market with and talk to a lot. And I think to me where that seems to fit in is this idea of if you have if your customers have a product that there are maybe varied shapes, sizes, colors, all the same thing. Again, thinking of like apparel. A shirt, a blue shirt can come in 5 or 6 different sizes. Could come in a multitude of colors. Maybe slightly different variations of brand or design or something like that. So I think the more opportunity where there is for inventory to get mixed up that somewhat looks similar, I think this item level, tagging type aspect or whatever can kind of help with that muddled mess a little bit. And the other thing that occurs to me is I feel like, and Dean, tell me if I'm wrong here, that this can really help out retailers that are kind of staying on top of or can, their inventory can be at the whim of a specific trend or a hot topic or not.
Yes.
Again, I'm going to reference one last time here my days in retail at a bookstore. Oprah's book club.
Right.
Whenever Oprah would announce something new on her book club, which a lot of times we wouldn't know ahead of time, or maybe she would just even have just a random guest on who would promote a book that people got excited about. And suddenly everyone's filing into the store asking for this book. If you're lucky, you had a couple copies of it on hand. The printers start ramping up because they didn't know this was going to happen. There wasn't a good chain to get this conversation started. And I think it would have been so much nicer to have some kind of easy way and this was, not just the RFID side, but just the interconnectivity between, stores in general.
Yeah, right.
To be able to really say like, all right, this book is suddenly hot. Let's take inventory of everything we've got, everywhere we've got it.
Yeah.
Is it a business book that's going to play better at a downtown store? I feel like there's an opportunity here when you get down to this item level aspect to really hop on board when a hot trend or a hot item occurs, whether it's a celebrity that's, carrying a new purse or whatever that suddenly everyone wants. They see him, at a show or in a photo or something, or just, something that got promoted in a certain way on television or in a movie or whatever. Dean, does this kind of item level RFID help out with that kind of thing too?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the challenge in those kind of situations is the supply chain is the limiting item. And so what we see in retailers that have those coming is they're pretty well planned out. We don't have the Oprah book club kind of situation, which sounds horrifying to me as a retailer. Okay. But again, any retailer that's moving from a one store or 10 store, 12 store type of environment to an online environment where they're going to use their stores as distribution centers to fulfill orders. That's a great example of someone who has a hot product, and we're working with 2 brands right now that are in that. They started out as a single store and maybe an online business, and now they're expanding to 20 stores. Their brand is going crazy, and they can't afford to go put all their inventory in a DC and try to pick from there. So they're going to have to use their 20 stores for BOPIS. And again, there's an example that ties to what you talked about, John, is the responsiveness, the ability to think ahead of time to make that happen is really useful for retailers.
Yep, definitely.
Yep. Good point.
Awesome. All right. Well, hey, hopefully you got some good tips for where to start this item level RFID conversation.
Yes.
And obviously, again, if you want to partner, reach out to us. We'll be happy to put you in touch with SML to get connected with them and help you enable this, because it sounds like you guys know what you're doing and you've got a lot of great customers that appreciate what you're doing too.
A couple billion tags out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's wrap up as always with our favorite segment, What's TEConnecting with You? This is where we get to talk about something in the world of science, tech, business, innovation, something that's got our attention that we're kind of excited about or interested in, or maybe it's something that's terrifying us right now. So Dean, I'll let you start. What's TEConnecting with you right now?
The biggest thing is I bought a battery-powered snowblower for my cabin.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Okay. It's game changing. Okay. Because the cabin is at altitude. So you have issues associated with the carburetor being clogged when you go to need it, because you only need it twice a year, right? When you get to the cabin and maybe once while you're there. And so it was my first foray into lithium powered proper, equipment. And I'm pretty sold on it. So I don't know about a car yet, but or a truck, but at least for a snowblower, it's proper. It works. So
I'm
awesome.
with you here. I've been slowly transitioning over to a lot of battery powered stuff myself. My biggest one over the last year was a weed whacker. And it was one of those things. I'd had a gas one for the longest time, and I always had issues with it. Just, I don't know. It was one of those things where it was almost too much mechanics for its own good.
Yes.
And then I transitioned over to a battery powered one. It came with 2 batteries. All I got to do is just, charge one up. I have one ready to swap out at any time. It's quick and easy, simple for me to take. It's even easier to manage like the string and stuff. I don't know. Everything about it is so much easier than what I was using. And I'm already thinking like, all right, the next time I need a lawnmower, I'm probably going to do a battery lawnmower.
Yes. Yeah.
Again, the snowblower, I've got, the leaf blower, which I don't really need that much anymore, but just for the grass for the most part.
All these small engine mechanics are cringing right now.
I'm sure they are, but
because
I'm seeing the value.
You've got the little Ma and Pa Toro shop or whatever, and all those guys. But you're right. It's so much easier.
It is.
Because I've had that gas-powered weed whacker that lasted 1 year.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I don't know. I don't have the wherewithal to
I'm
modify
not a mechanic,
the carburetor on
exactly.
it, or somewhat mechanically inclined, but not, it's like, I don't have the time to do this. That's a pretty good one, Dean. Yeah,
like
snow blowing. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
All right,
Dean,
here's my headline. Russia to depart ISS. So this is the International Space Station, which we belovingly have talked about, and we knew it was getting shuttered, right? It was I think it was gonna burn up. They're just gonna abandon it and,
there was some point in the future
2030 is when they were gonna abandon it and go, well, that's been
accelerated.
When
half of your partners have bailed out.
The international, so Russia's pulling out as of 2024. So you only got about 2 more years, and you might ask yourself, well, that's okay. Maybe it can still live. Well, Russia is responsible for maintaining the facility's orbital trajectory.
Yeah, that's kind of important.
That's a little bit important, don't you think?
Making sure it actually stays where it's supposed to be.
If it's not in the correct orbital trajectory, is that something that you're getting on?
No, not so much. No, I don't want to be up there when it decides to start just go lopsided and fall into the atmosphere.
Yeah. So
or spin off into space somewhere. Yeah.
At this point, it's not clear how the space station will continue to run without Russia helping here. So there you go. There's one of the spin-offs of when you go to war and you really make a mess of the world like Russia has. Well, of course they're going to depart the International Space Station, and I don't know. Maybe
I would think it's going to make
soon.
a lot of countries very hesitant to work with them for any future projects like this too.
You think?
I mean,
just a little bit. Right? Absolutely.
Fall behind on a lot of that stuff too. Because we're talking about moon stations now, and colonizing Mars in the future. I mean,
but if they're actually involved in the trajectory, now I got my maniacal mind going.
Oh no!
Are they just going to let it crash and burn into wherever? God forbid the
hopefully
Ukraine
they can't,
or something like that.
Hopefully they can't aim it somewhere. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure they could, like a controlled whatever.
Oh, that'd be awful.
The trajectory's a little off. Sorry about that. It's going to be landing in Dallas.
There's a million ways we could have thought like World War III might start, but
Yeah, it's the International Space.
We hired an intern. Okay, to save money, and so ASOC, the intern, ended up making a decimal change, and it's on its way to Mars.
We told him Control S, not Control X. He got it confused. We're so sorry. No.
Anyway, that's what was TEConnecting with me. So keep an eye on the ISS.
Okay,
I don't know. It's got no trajectory at this point in time.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
There you go. John, what's up with you?
Carbon dating has been a pretty common way of, figuring out how old something is. And, we've used it a lot for fossils, obviously, to understand like how old something is. And for anybody who doesn't understand this concept, it's the idea that there's natural carbon in the atmosphere. I think carbon-14 is the isotope we're typically talking about. All living things absorb it into their bodies over time, and basically, when something is dead and they start decaying, that carbon starts very, very slowly decaying away as well, and we can date, how old something is in a predictable pattern, basically. Well, apparently, fossil fuel emissions are causing issues with that. And basically, carbon dating will become a useless opportunity.
Seriously,
in the not too distant future.
Really,
it was actually expected to happen anyway, just based on the amount of carbon that either is or isn't in our atmosphere anyway.
Okay,
so. Apparently, this was a really interesting article about this, and as always, I'm linked to all this stuff in our show notes. But basically, there was this discussion about the idea that there was some spikes over the years, and one of them happened during the nuclear testing back in the 50s and 60s.
Sure.
Huge spikes of carbon-14 in the air during that time, which was all well and good, I guess, for carbon dating. But that now, because we have so much CO2 entering the atmosphere that is not containing carbon-14 and is dispersing it, that now, unfortunately, items that look like that have the carbon-14 in, when they start dating them now, something, let's say, from only, I don't know, let's say 60, 70 years ago, will have much less carbon potentially in it than something that, where it should be based on hundreds of years ago or thousands or millions of years ago.
Got it.
So like the whole, noting like, okay, by half-life or by however much it's supposed to have, this predictable measure of what amount of carbon is supposed to be in something based on its age is completely out of whack now because there's so much less being actually absorbed to begin with that we no longer, and apparently, again, a lot of it's happening because the CO2 is kind of pushing it out and keeping less, keeping it from being as absorbed as it was before.
Interesting.
I'm probably explaining this very badly. Again, read this article. It's fascinating.
So even like 1,000 years from now, carbon dating is not going to really have any
and again, they kind of expected that to happen anyway, but the process has been dramatically accelerated over the last 20 or 30 years because of emissions. And
where does this end? Where does okay, so the whole world's going to hell. We get that, but it's like, is it the song "Everything Gives You Cancer"? Everything we do is burn.
I kind of feel like
even carbon dating, we've messed up.
Yeah, exactly. Like, who knew? We can't. No one's gonna be able to figure out how old something is anymore. And be able to identify fossil remains or anything. Here's what's gonna happen. Like, assuming this planet lasts long enough, 1 million years down the road, somebody's gonna be trying to figure out like, hey, was this from the 20th century or the 28th century? I don't know. No idea. Could have been anywhere. Can you imagine how much you're going to mess up like your interpretation of history and timelines?
Right.
I mean, I guess we'll have hopefully some written history to elaborate on that. There you go. But still,
digital. Yeah.
So that's what's kind of not TEConnecting.
All right.
That was a little.
There's some doom and gloom.
Exactly.
Carbon dating out the window.
So that does it for us today. Dean Frew from SML. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Dean.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Until next time, go buy yourself a battery-powered
snowblower.
Lawn or snowblower item. Yeah, that's handy. Maybe find a way to absorb some carbon-14 into yourself so you can be properly dated in the future. And as always, please
don't
get on the space station. Yes, not now. As always, please stay connected. TEConnect podcast is brought to you by ELO. All right, Dean, you referenced in this episode the cannabis industry and their need for RFID solutions.
That's right.
Big part of what can help them operate end to end.
Yes.
But the cannabis dispensary owners require reliable, easy to use hardware designed to withstand the rigors of continuous use.
This is true.
While consumer products often fail to deliver, ELO's commercial-grade solutions provide an advantage offering manageability, long life cycle, durability, ease of support, warranty, and flexibility. We talk about this a lot. The cannabis dispensaries, people have this reputation sometimes that they're going to be shady places because it's, cannabis or whatever.
Dude.
These are some of the nicest retail establishments you will ever enter. I haven't been in any myself, but you've seen enough pictures of them. They look pretty slick. They're pretty cool places. And if that's the case, you want really cool dynamic touchscreen technology in there too. So from all-in-one POS systems, flexible monitors, and easy-to-connect peripherals to eye-catching displays, self-service kiosks, and mobile computers for inventory management, ELO offers a variety of modern, engaging solutions for your dispensary customers. To learn more, check out the link in the show notes or contact the BlueStar ELO team. TEConnect Podcast is brought to you by Zebra. The long-awaited potential of consistent and reliable RFID is here and within reach. Leverage Zebra's decades of expertise, design thinking, and software development to help your customers achieve maximum RAIN RFID efficiency while minimizing the pains of multi-vendor solutions. Unlike other players, Zebra gives you the industry's broadest, field-proven RFID portfolio for unmatched accuracy and interoperability. Connect it all and create a platform that elevates every system, device, tag, and worker. With Zebra, you're powered by a brand that customers already know and trust. Your sales process is accelerated by a team of Zebra experts there to help earn your customers' business at every stage. Zebra RFID is ready to help you open doors and close sales.
I have a question real quick.
Okay, go for it.
What more do you need?
I don't know.
right? I mean, just like a complete solution right there. Boom, done.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I like this line though. Zebra RFID is ready to help you open doors and close sales. You know what it reminds me of?
Oh, nice.
It reminds me of the end of The Godfather.
Yes.
When Michael closes the door on Kay, kind of shutting her out of the business, and all of his darker deeds.
Yes.
Maybe that's not what Zebra was going for, but but they will help you close the door on your competitors. That's
boom.
Probably a lot less murdery though.
Yes.
Take the RFID, leave the cannoli.
Dude, but when you walk in the door with a complete solution and everything that they have to offer, done.
That's right.
Yeah.
To learn more about Zebra's line of RFID printers and readers, visit the link in the show notes or contact the Zebra team here at BlueStar.